All right, shalom to everybody, peace, namaste, blessings to you on every level. Wow, the universe is so amazing and so beautiful and so kind and so loving to us. It's an amazing concept that the universe always gives you exactly what you want, and there will be people that will argue with that because their mind doesn't want what they're receiving, but the universe is still giving you what you wanted, what you believed that you deserved or believed that you have, and really brings back the teachings. It's really becoming a little easier, and some of you have given me really words of nice kindness and notifications that other people are validating pieces that you hear from me, and it's just a very kind thing to do. Everybody likes for their work to have value, but very few people are interested in anybody but their own. And so we go often and we live in these little lost circles that we think are positive, and sometimes they're really just little lost circles that we're spinning around in, kind of a tidy bowl syndrome, if you would. And so what I kind of wanted to look at, what's been kind of brewing and working with me, really has to do with kind of frequency, and I'm seeing some things for myself in different perspectives, and I suspect that's intentional and that's intended. And the positive outworking of them is that they really just kind of help you to make sense yourself. I know that for me and for most of the people probably that would ever spend their time to listen, most of you guys are coming out of Christianity just like I am. And I've seen enough and I've listened to enough teachings. I guess originally I didn't realize that everything that was supposed to be this quote unquote spirit thing are not necessarily cohesive with each other. There's lots of pieces that sound very similar, but when you spend any time to inquire or to look inside, you begin to find out that actually the whole thought systems are completely different. And I guess it kind of is the same with Christianity. You have Baptists who believe staunchly what they believe, and Pentecostals, and the two argue and talk bad about each other, and they all hate the Seventh-day Adventist. And I lived all of that stuff as a Christian pastor. I used to really be appalled by some of the people and the things they said about guys that were trying to do right by observing the Sabbath, but it happened all the time. And so that's what I say. It's so funny to me, and of course my family is like totally Christian, and it's like, it's so funny to me now looking back at the quantity of people who didn't live the Bible and still aren't living the Bible, and yet they consider themselves to be the moral right of the earth. And so you begin to see, I was asked a question about some of this stuff, and the question kind of came through in the concept of the paradoxes. I feel often like it's not because of anybody's failing, it's just that there is so much dynamics that are going on in all that is happening, and there are people who are wondering, well, how can this be that I'm a human and yet I'm this powerful spirit being, and yet the human has more control than the powerful spirit being? And that, I think that's a really appropriate question. And in fact, I would be closer and inclined to say, if you haven't had that question, I would ask you the question of why haven't you? You're not obviously that concerned about thinking about things. If you a question is intended to seek truth. That's the purpose people ask questions, is they don't understand something and they want to understand it. And so the questions are certainly valid, and there are many paradoxes. On the one side, you're creating everything that's being created, both deeming on how you view it, both good and bad. It's coming from the inside of you. And that seems to be one of those paradoxes that is very hard, because on one side it seems like we're supposed to be free, and yet on the other side we're the one that's putting ourselves in bondage. And the answer to both of the questions is still exactly the same. You're absolutely correct. That is the truth. You are the one that is putting yourself in prison, and you are the one that is if you are going to get out of prison, who are going to get you out of prison is going to be yourself. It is a paradox. Alan Watts and Carl Jung both constantly talked about the paradoxes of the spirit realm. And so we have these people that are mediums that can talk to angels and all kinds of things, and yet if you were to stop and ask them, they couldn't give you an answer about what spirit force it is. It's just their spirit team. And so for those of you who've been with me for a while, and I will tell you, it's almost like hearing drums in the background. And of course I often question, I know what I feel led to do, and so I try to be true to that and follow that, and almost absolutely across the board it's always the right thing. But why did we start in the Nag Hammadi, and why have we been there 6+ months, and why are all these things that none of you guys have ever heard before, why are they brought out now? Well, just so that you know, there are many people, and I've been talking about this for a while, there are many people that are starting to awaken, and they are moving away from a lot of this fake spirituality crap, if you would pardon my language, but that's what it is. And so what's starting to go on is that there is a shifting, that there actually is a cosmic pattern, plan, law, right and wrong, up and down, good and bad, that exists. And the problem is that everyone is being told you've been closed minded your whole life as a Christian, so now we want you to leave Christianity, but we want you to stay closed minded so that you don't ask the questions, because we don't have the answers for them either. And so there's really sects. They are like forms and branches of religion of so-called spirit people. And some of them are all hung up on spirit beings that, other than in their visions or dreams, they've never seen. Though I'm quite sure they've encountered them and they've had conversations. Everyone that exists on this earth has encountered archons on a daily basis. And so for anyone to believe that they're not would be very pale. Here's my questioning, and for some of you, if you've asked this question, and why it is so important, and then what I'm starting to see that's already starting to happen. So as it has been for those people that have been with me for any length of time, because they may not possess knowledge, but you have to be pretty asleep not to watch the same thing keep happening over and over again. And inevitably, it seems as if wherever source takes me is always at the forefront of whatever it is, usually beforehand. And so we're now back to the point. We have people like, Greg Braden, who are sharing the text quite a bit. And for those of you who might like to go look it up, if you are still not completely clear about the archonic structure and the reality of it, there is a really, really nice teaching by David Icke. And maybe some of you have watched David Icke and other things. His name is Icke. And do yourself a favor and go watch it on the archons, because it's everything that I've taught you and everything that the Nag Hammadi has taught you. But he does it from a stage with a whole lot of things that I don't possess, which are nice audio visuals and all of those things to try to help bring the ancient picture in. Otherwise, you have to have that in your mind. And but it's absolutely quite amazing to ask someone. So this spirit that keeps telling you this stuff, who is it? And even if they have a name. I could cause question and doubt about every channeler that exists. I don't say that those things aren't real. They are real. That's not the question I have. I know it's real. The question I have is, who are they? And what happens is when you have people that have been told their whole life that they don't need anybody, they buy that crap hook, line, and sinker, because that's the way they've always been. Okay? They'll never get out of that cesspool of reality. And that's what it is. It's a cesspool of reality. When you think that you alone possess all that is, you're just opening the door to prove that you really have nothing. And that's kind of a harsh statement, but it is truth. And so we have all of these people for thousands of years. People were hand trained, people that showed a desire. And it is true in the society we live in. Many of the people that exist in our society, nobody would ever dare show them the truth that they're getting an opportunity to see now. And so for all of us, that would be then a huge change that is coming on from what has always been in the ancient past. Yeshua only taught people that were worthy of it. He only taught people that deserved the truth, because otherwise you're just wasting your time. And he was aware of that, and he taught that openly. If you don't like that, that's sad, but it's all over everything Yeshua did everywhere. And so what then am I talking about? I'm talking about the reality that we are something, and we are something great, and we are something special, but we also have to be careful, because of that. And so I've had several different people, actually quite a few, but just in this environment, I've had several different people that really maybe don't understand how these pieces, and that concerns me, because obviously if there's pitfalls out there, and nobody's the enemy, they're just different pitfalls. And so, but I've been asked the question, so I don't really understand about frequency. And how does frequency work, and what is frequency? And if, normally people like Yitzhak Bentov would immediately go into a teaching on electronics, because electronics is the place where you can most readily see these principles functioning. And because it's really the same functioning everywhere in the universe. And so, but how does our frequency affect us? What's it like? What is it even? And where does it come from? And so I felt led for a few minutes just to share that, first off, every one of us, when we're born and come into this life, we come in with a frequency, but that frequency immediately begins to be damaged. It immediately begins to be stomped on. You have no mastery of or control of anything, and you simply are a theta mind info gatherer for the first 7 years of your life. No context, no filters. Your subconscious has nothing in it, so it doesn't do anything except collect the information of the behavior of the people that you have encountered in this incarnation. And so your frequency immediately that you came in with immediately begins to be doctored and manipulated. So much so, unfortunately, that to a large extent, we oftentimes have to go many years before we begin to find what our base frequency is. Now, I've had people with that have made nice comments, like that they have quit watching television and they have started practicing silence in a manner in which they never had before. And to that I say, you are obviously getting it. Everything that is filling the minds of the so-called spirit people, almost all of that stuff is nothing but distractions sent by archons. And that's why they can't wait to stop whatever they're doing and get to their telephone so that they can do something else and fill their mind up. They're horribly scared of ever being silent. And so you watch that, you can actually see it in their personal behavior, but you watch that and you begin to ask yourself, what is that doing to someone's frequency? There are spiritists that are coming out and starting to talk against AI, that it is going to be, if allowed, and I think Greg Braden started most of this, if it is allowed, it is going to destroy the human soul, because it is going to pull people so far from the fake reality they live in that they'll never even make it back to the fake reality, much less move to a true reality. That's the purpose of AI. And I told you that AI is not new, it's only new to humans. It's only new in the time we live in. It is a very ancient technology. They've been doing this artificial intelligence as a way to manipulate masses for a very, very, very long time from the spirit realm. And so now we're here, and it's mainstream, and it's controlling everything, and it's getting harder to cut the television on and to know what is and what isn't true, and what is and what isn't real. And so to you that made that comment, that's an amazing thing that you would come to, is simply that the best way to deal with all of that distraction is to simply get rid of it. And the people that don't will be okay. They'll just continue on in the same cycle they're in, and they'll stay in that cycle, because as long as we're distracted, and it's something every one of us have to be careful of first off. And I'm not sure that any of us probably are the standard, if you would. I think that it's a learned response that we have to make a decision to unlearn or to not unlearn it. And so please don't say that I'm speaking against television. I'm not speaking against television. I just think that we have to be mindful of everything that we do. And there are certainly a lot of open doors. And I personally think that at many levels, the cell phone is infinitely worse than the TV is. It draws people in, and they think it's almost like if you watch people that live inside of that world, it's almost like they actually begin to believe that that's reality. And so that ties with it. And so I've been watching all of this stuff for quite a while, not so that I can be somebody's judge, because I don't care. You're free to do whatever you want to do. But for those people out there that are interested in trying maybe to think, the way to think clearly is to be clear in your mind, and you can't be clear in your mind when you're listening to the will of everyone who wants to control you. And that's exactly what's going on. And so you say, well, how does this kind of muster up with all frequency stuff? Because all of those things that I'm talking about are all pieces of the things that destroy your frequency. Carl Jung made a statement. He said that the mass majority of people's reality is nothing but moving from one drama to the next. And he's damn sure right. He's damn sure right. We're all guilty of it. It's not a guilt factor. It's actually something that all humans encounter. So that's why I say it's really not a guilt factor. For us, it's a factor of learning how to navigate, so that we recognize first, and then we can then take the processes to modify that. We can take the processes to recognize that I'm not going to be part of that. I'm not going to allow that to influence me. And all of those things are really valid for helping us to keep our frequency. So I shared a statement, I've shared it with a lot of people, of the sacredness of our frequency. And I really would like to encourage everyone today that you maybe give, if you gave a lot of thought, wonderful, then you're already growing by it. But maybe that you do yourself a favor and you actually give thought to that past the 5 seconds in your mind, and then it disappears like everything else that's subconscious. We are in a really amazing time, and there is going to be much changes. There already are much change. I encounter this everywhere I go. I have people that are telling me that have been in Christianity their whole life, and they're telling me things like they are starting to recognize that things are not the same as they used to be, and that they're looking at things and it looks differently, and they're looking at people and they look differently, and they're looking at situations in their life that they may put themselves in, and they don't look the same as what they used to do. And I would just say to every one of you who maybe have a story like that, I would say value that story quite a bit, because it is the evidence that something inside of you slowly but surely is shifting. There is a shifting, and I said this, and I know this is also uncomfortable for a lot of people, because a lot of people believe that they're the rock, that they're the one, everyone else can change, but I'm so perfect I don't need to. And I listen to a lot of that ego come out of people. They don't know they're saying it, but I listen for what they're not saying also. And oftentimes we find ourselves in those situations, and we begin to compromise. Now, I want to say what I said again. We're all guilty of this. This isn't any way any kind of condemnation at anyone. What this is a statement that it is a reality and that we're never going to get rid of it until we can learn how to conquer it completely inside of ourselves. And even then, it doesn't mean that it won't attempt to rear its head again. It will. But hopefully you've been prepared and matured enough that you can just deal with it on a much faster basis, like being aware. Awareness, folks, so that you know awareness is everything. I lived in a family and was brought up in a situation where the mantra is ignorance is bliss. And I, as a young child, didn't buy that, and I still don't buy it. In fact, what I have come to know is that ignorance is absolutely nothing but ignorance. It's neither bliss nor it's pain. It just simply means that you don't care to know what the truth is. And that's where lots of people live. They love ignorance, actually. And there are other people that are starting to awaken, and all of a sudden that's not very comfortable to be in that situation with people who live perpetual mindlessness. And so when we find those things, then how do we protect ourselves? Because I've said this, and I'm going to say it again. For those that are coming out of Christianity, you absolutely must learn how to navigate a completely new reality. The same actions and behaviors do not bring the same benefit or other payment. And where we didn't have those guises, so to speak, I mean, you had to protect that somebody didn't talk about Jesus in the wrong manner, or, you know, whatever your religious bit was. In the Pentecostals, you know, you weren't saved unless you spoke in tongues, and there were many of them that I've grown up and experienced in the religious world that I see. And yet what I don't see and I don't hear very much is the reality and the discernment. It's not, no one's trying to force you to do it. It is something more, a suggestion, and then maybe even sometimes a sharing of the truth of what happens to people who make that decision to not. It won't be the speaker inevitably who sent you into a karmic firestorm. It will simply have been your decisions. Maybe they were trying to help you prior to the firestorm exploding, and you were so self-centered and egotistical you didn't need anybody's help. And I'm hearing that a lot coming out of a specific camp, that it's as if because somebody told them that we are divine inside, that all of a sudden they have ascended to the highest dimensions and they know everything about everything. And I'm going to tell you, you can follow those people to your own destruction, but I assure you they don't. Okay? I promise you they don't. None of us know everything, and most of the things we learn come through persistent observance. And so what it really plays out to is walking in a state of constant consciousness. And I'm still kind of often blown away by the reality of all of the people who talk consciousness, and yet you don't really see that as the forefront, the thing that is important. And I've really only ever heard one speaker who told people that if you are walking in the right path with Source, one of the gifts that comes to you naturally is higher intelligence. Most people don't have that knowledge, and they certainly won't tell anybody that where you're walking, whether it's at a high intellect or whether it's at a low intellect, is irrelevant. What is a reality is those people who access higher self and Source, their mind, their intellect, their intelligence will be increased. And so maybe you've asked yourself, well, that person just seems like they're so smart, and there's more than not, there's a reason why that but exists there. And so if you are encountering things like that, it simply means that you are awakening. And as I've shared, I know other people share this, and many share a different one, that because there are people who seemingly wake up and they possess all of the universe. And of course, I don't believe that, but they certainly seem to be more gifted than the others. But if we all are, then whatever it is that the universe is sending to you, it's funny, in Christianity, we bought into it, and we should be buying into it still. The simple little principle that God won't give us more than we can handle. That really isn't a Christian belief system. That is actually a metaphysical belief system. And the truth of the matter is the universe desires for us to fulfill our purpose here. And many of our purposes are not at all what we think our purpose is. For me, mine's been made quite clear multiple times, and I keep being human and forgetting what I've been told. And of course, Source is so kind that he just comes and kicks me in the butt again and reminds me of what he's already said multiple times, and all the things. I've gone through some recounting all of the different powerful supernatural things that happened at the church I pastored in Austin as a Christian pastor. And I didn't understand it, but it had nothing to do with Christianity and everything to do with the truth of the universe. And so when we begin to see those things, so this sacred frequency, we all establish for ourselves a base frequency, and I think for somebody this is going to help them. If you feel as if your frequency is not, that's not to be feared. If anything, that would be a sign of love and kindness that is being given to you, that you need to open your eyes to something that you haven't been looking at. And of course, 90% of the time, that's something that you haven't been looking at is yourself. And most people refuse categorically to do that. And it's okay, it is a truth, but you just have to let people be and do to theirself whatever they choose to be and do to theirself. And you hear all kinds of things and you go, that's not going to work out very well for you, but you still have to let them do it. It is really a totally different world if people decide and choose to do that. On the other side of it, we have this thing, if you are awakening, this thing in us that it is going to be the determining factor of all, really, which is your frequency. And the frequency is so foreign to us because we're not told about it in Christianity. And for you guys well, I guess I was kind of a long-term Christian, but if you've been a Christian 30, 40, 50 years, friend, it's really hard to hear that there's spirit beings talking on the other side that ain't God. Those things are very difficult to come out of and to get over with. And so one of the things I want to do is just encourage anybody who has begun to awaken and are beginning their journey, whether you've been doing, we're still all, I believe, at the beginning. Now, this massive shift that's happening, I hope it really does bring on higher consciousness for all of us at a much faster pace. I hear that that's going to be the case. I hear that the chaos that we're going through right now is going to be one of the pieces. So here's a good news, that all of this that's going on, all of the dissension in the world, all of the Russia doing what they're doing, all of the us fighting Iran, all of those things are actually functioning in this time, and the purpose of them is to push us to higher consciousness. We, as humans, we kind of have a problems of wanting to drag our feet and do things, and while there certainly is a pattern of a river. You could use what many use as a flow. And I said something the other day, and I think it affected some people. I got that vibe back. There's nothing in the world wrong, and we should be flowing. But I would just encourage you, maybe you ought to be a little bit more mindful than just taking some cliche statement and using it as your mantra. Because oftentimes people don't realize what they're tying their self to is really very unhealthy. See, the concept of spirituality, of going with the flow, means you do nothing. And there is a place and a space for us to do nothing, that we have to let the universe do it. And I fully agree with that. But those are not the same thing. And so it's kind of like the old saying goes about wearing a t-shirt for a product, that maybe you shouldn't put t-shirts for products on if you don't even know what the product is. And I think that's a humanistic way of telling us that maybe we ought to think about it before we go putting some mantra on and tying ourselves to something. And you're free to do that, obviously. But somebody who knows what that mantra really means, it may cause some effects that are not in the best interest. I'll just say it like that. Because it's pretty easy in this world to get people that already look down on you if you're a spiritualist. And so then you make some stupid statement and they disown you intellectually because you're a moron. And you don't see it that way, but we're still fighting a battle with humanity in the world in which we live in. Friends, it still affects you every day, whether you believe it or don't. The greatest spiritualists I've ever met are affected. Now, the difference is they know how to deal with it. They don't have to run from it. They're not scared of it. They simply know how to navigate the territory. And I think that's kind of become a mantra thought process that I've had. How do we navigate this new realm? I learned how to navigate Christianity. Many of you know very well how to navigate Christianity. But what happens when Christianity is proven to be false and that's not the system that you're trying to navigate anymore? Well, what happens is, in a nutshell, is it means that you must learn how to navigate the new system. And so it's kind of like if you went from Linux to Windows 12 or Windows 10, you may have an idea about how the thing functions, but there's a whole lot of things that are different. And in this situation, there are a lot of things. And so all of that is tied to a mental thought process to use to protect your sacred frequency, which people around you are certainly, in many cases, are not trying to protect. Some intentionally, some not so intentionally. But you getting the reality that this is the most important thing that there is. The thing that's going to free, and it is happening. There is separation going on a massive level. The crumbling of the Democratic Party is a frequency thing. What's going on in the world is a frequency thing. What's going on in your life is a frequency thing. And so it's pretty obvious that how you learn to see that and then how you learn to react to that is pretty important. The rest of a lot of the things that we're told that we need to be or do, I don't think that we have to be or do any of those things, to be quite honest with you. I don't need to do anything but come to recognition inside of myself of what I am. That's the thing I need to do. And past that, the rest is me to learn how to properly function so that I can bring honor to the one. Now, I'm sorrowful if Source has never decided to speak to you, but for me to know that I have a purpose and it's a very special purpose means something to me. And I think that there's probably lots of people who that has been hidden from. Thank goodness for many things in my life that freed me from the control. But just because you saw that Christianity may not be honest doesn't mean that you freed yourself from that matrix. And so there's many people that are walking around who've left Christianity that are still tied to that matrix in their minds. And so it is going to be a hard piece of a journey. I get questions like this from people constantly. So how do you do this? If this is how it was, it's like the whole thing. Well, what about eating ham? So what about it? Eat it. If you like it, eat it. That's a simple thing. It's not gonna affect your frequency. On the other side, if you live in a situation that is affecting your frequency, then you need to look at that. Forget about the ham. I know that's a 10 commandment, but it's exactly what it is. It's a 10 commandment. And for some, that's kind of difficult. How do you come out from under all of those beliefs? And I get it. It is. It doesn't mean just because I can come to a conclusion doesn't mean that I don't have the same struggle. And so for each and every one of you guys, the things that are coming, many of the frequency shifts that are coming are already happening. And there'll be many people that go yada, 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 and I don't want to hear what you have to say, and that's all good. That's all good. I'm not interested in helping those that don't want to help, but I certainly am interested in helping those that do. And so the visions that you're seeing, the changing of your mind, I don't know how many people I've had tell me, well, I'm having dreams, and it's not so much that people are having a dream because we can do that as we do more spiritually. You would expect things like that to happen, to see visions and have dreams and get thoughts, and all of those things are all part of it. But what I'm talking about is the things that they are dreaming about. And they're not just a mind dream. They're actually a tool to reconstruct you on the inside. And a lot of the work that's done in us, I know we think that because we lay down and close our eyes that that's the end of it, but we're actually more active mentally when we're not awake than when we are. And so when you're seeing these things about bad behaviors that you've had in the past or ways that you've hurt people, you should really practice with that gratitude that Source obviously sees enough, because there are enough people, guys, that still have no consciousness about any of the things that they've done. In fact, if they can convince themselves to forget it, they think that it's over with. And it's not over with. It's never gonna just fall away. There's always a price to be paid. And so we listen to the different sects and their teachings on karma. Most of their teachings on karma, I hate to say this, are wrong. It's not a retribution system. It is a payday for your behavior system. And that's all that karma is. Whatever comes back to you because you're the one that sent it. I mean, it's like the whole concept of us creating our reality. There is no one else to blame. And if you're blaming people, then it's proof that you're still delusional, because there isn't anyone else for you to blame. And anything other than that is a delusion. Doesn't matter what they do to you. All that matters to Source is what do you do. And that's all. I love the picture, and I hope if you haven't, that maybe somebody will take this. It's something I have begun to practice myself, and it's so simple, but yet it takes being conscious of. And that has to do with the way that we view situations every day in our life, navigating daily life. So what does it mean when something happens, whether we would deem it as good or bad? What should that mean to us? And in a nutshell, we seem to deal with it differently, and really it isn't. It's just opposite ends of the pendulum. We went through that, and the Kabbalion was very clear to show that. Most of you probably have never heard of it. Bentov, he wrote a book called Chasing the Wild Pendulum, and it's exactly the same principle. He actually cracked the code to consciousness. And a lot of what you'll hear me sharing with you guys is part of the pieces of the codes of consciousness, and they're nothing that most of these people are telling you. The greatest day you can ever have is the one day that you actually truly start to believe that you are. And because until then, everything is just a precursor to get you to that point. It doesn't mean that you've now ascended. That just simply means you got to the place of the starting point. So I say this to try to encourage people, no matter how long you've been doing this or what you've seen, you're way ahead of a lot of people, promise you. The fact that you made it to that point with a pure heart, with a desire to know what truth is. And so as we go along, how then must we protect our frequency? We protect our frequency through our thoughts. We protect our frequency through actions. We protect our frequency through behavior. We protect our frequency through mindfulness. We destroy our frequency through mindlessness. And all of those things have to be then attributed at the proper time as your daily life indicates. It's very difficult to become the observer and to quit being the reactor. And I would love to say that I have accomplished all, but I have not accomplished all. But the beauty that I notice in all of this, and if you haven't, then don't worry about it. I don't mean don't focus on it. I don't mean don't pay attention to it. I just simply mean it's okay. Inevitably, you'll win if you'll keep on. But the constant programming that we have been gifted as far as reaction goes, and wow, I look back, it's been some heavy. It's some of this stuff answers so many of the questions I had with all the people that I counseled, because a lot of what I was seeing there was really just the outworking of lack of consciousness. And it's hard to tell an unconscious person that they're unconscious, and the reason for that is because they have no consciousness. And Paul talked about that, and so you can understand that. Paul said that at the end of time that people would have a lack of consciousness. Folks, it's everywhere around us. We are watching a mystic who spoke to the future, and that manifests. We live in that time, and inevitably it will hurt some, but it doesn't have to hurt you, and that's the point that I desire to make today. We absolutely have every right to become 10 times more intelligent and more mindful and more conscious than we have ever been in our whole life. You absolutely have a right and a freedom to do that. Really, the only question is will you? And so, by protecting your sacred frequency, by recognizing that you can continue to live a life that goes from drama plot to drama plot, from your work drama to your personal drama to your home drama to your joy drama, because there's drama everywhere. None of it is non-existent. And so the question then is, if I let that affect me, then I just stay in the perpetual rat race of my frequency constantly being beat on and shattered by these external forces. And so if you're starting a little bit to recognize that, then I'd say you should be very pleased with yourself. You should pat yourself on the back that you're starting to recognize that there are things that seem to do more destruction, and you're going to encounter those, and some of them you can deal with, and some of them you may not be at a place that you can deal with. That's okay too, because this game is not over with. It is a game, and also remember, you'd never heard it until a month ago, but folks, everything that we've been taught our whole life to be so serious about is nothing but a game. And that's a crazy, amazing statement. But even like a football game has rules. And so you don't get to just go out there and do whatever you want to do. In our world, in our realms, in our realities, we don't get to just go and do what we deem in our own minds to be correct. Your mind is what's screwed up in the first place. And so if you keep listening to it, guess what you keep doing? How about we actually breathe and begin to ascend into the realm of the higher self and the core intelligence of Source. Just so that you know, the core intelligence of Source that is in you is the only way that your consciousness, that you will become more intelligent. That work is in you, and it is done by Source. It is His intelligence. That's really profound, I promise you. But it is happening, and people are experiencing it. Some know what it is, and some haven't yet learned. But most will learn. And I suspect there will be a phase where more people learn how to access that realm and navigate the game plan. But to be sure, it wasn't accidental that we were told that Source created a game. We are not humans. We came in down here for a little bitty time and season. You've been here before. You'll be here again. Some of you are star seeds that came of your own free will. And for those of you who are recognizing depths that maybe you think are a little faster than what you would expect, don't be surprised. You may very well be one of those who came for a purpose of light. There's a picture that says there were over 100,000 spirit beings released on this earth in a year in our near past. And I'm sure you probably never thought about that the universe and that Source would empower 100,000 beings to come in and walk around like humans simply to put their frequency in. See, here's another piece to where some of these things are destructive. If you continue to remain around low frequency people, they will constantly drag you down into low frequency problems, their drama. And so I've watched people leave spirit people and go hang with low consciousness people and not be able to figure out why things aren't getting better. And in fact, in many cases, they're actually getting worse. And I have some stuff that I'll share about the power of our will and the power of the will that is imposed on you. And it is really a very, very much piece of the navigation of the high frequency realm. And so if you're interested to learn, you will learn. Source will bring it, whether you hear me today or you hear somebody a month from now. That's really not the important point. The important point is what it is inside of you that you truly believe that you're seeking. And many people are seeking easy and a bunch of other stuff, and some people are simply saying, Source, whatever it takes, that's what I want. And if that means I have to do some laborious work with myself, then I should get busy doing laborious work with myself. And those who make that decision and then hold that intention for more than 5 minutes will definitely be profitable for sure. So we're just blessed tonight. Your frequency, I just wanted to remind some people that your frequency is sacred. It is going to be the thing that will raise us above. The rising of the consciousness that's happening on the earth it is sad, but it is at a part, and I don't know how it all lays out. I don't know what are the black-eyed people, and I don't know what are the soulless ones. I know they exist. How Source is going to use them or what he's going to do with them, I have no idea, and I don't think anybody else does either. There's lots of opinions, but that's not the same. And so we listen to the opinion and we believe the truth. So I hope that you will remember what you are and how valuable you are. For those of you that are taking the time for silence, and I know that you've encountered some things that it's really crazy that as you begin to shut out things that aren't from higher source for spiritual improvement. I think that's really a big piece. We could ask ourselves, what is this doing to improve me as a human? And if it's not honorable, and you do it anyways, then okay, you get what you deserve. But on the other side, if you haven't known that and you keep experiencing that, and all it took was somebody letting you know that all you have to do is change your mind. All you have to do, the minute that you make a decision with intention and you hold that intention, whether it takes 5 days, 5 months, 5 years, or 5 millennia, is irrelevant. But you must hold that intention. And for some of you, that may be a little more difficult even to understand, much less to put into play in your life, because you have been flighty. Say something today and do exactly the opposite tomorrow or a week down the road. That's very hard. Those people are not disciplined in how to hold a thought process, how to hold a thought. Holding intention is holding on to a thought or a belief system unequivocally. You will not accept other information in that realm. And that's exactly what Yeshua was talking about when he said, you must first believe. And then not only must you must believe that until it manifests. And that may sound like it's really a lot of chore, but if you really believe it, it's not a chore at all. You're just waiting for the inevitable, which Source is going to bring to you. So continue to practice your silence that you're doing. Continue to look. The universe is giving you, maybe over most people actually, I think it's a sign of love for you. I believe that the universe is helping you to do shadow work. And I don't know if this is a new manifestation or if it's an old anomaly that's always been there and we just weren't aware of it. But by the universe giving you dreams in your mind and your higher consciousness being part of it, and you seeing your past failings, that's very akin to what you would see in the Akashic record, just so you know. That's an astral plane visitation. And the fact that you're seeing all of those things in the way that you hurt people is a sign of who you are, a sign of who your greatness is. And so rather than taking that, you should take that and you should do diligently all that you can do to make amends. That you see that for the greatness that it is, because if those things are still thoughts, then they're still in your programming, which means they're still affecting you. It would be horrible for people to truly understand on one level that crap that you did to people 35 years ago and you think you got away with, your payday just hasn't come for that yet. And if you're not interested and mindful enough to recognize that that payday is coming and take proactive steps to fix that before the day comes, that's why Yeshua said, when you do something wrong to someone, make it right now. Because it's going to come back and get you, and it don't get no easier the longer you wait. So, as I started, all of these little pieces are all pieces of things that we do to ourselves to destroy our frequency. They keep us low, they keep us discouraged, it keeps us depressed, it keeps us muttering in our minds all the false loops that we constantly rehearse about who we are and what our life is. And I promise you, ego loves to stand right there and pat you on the back and tell you how you're all of that and a bag of chips too, while in reality, maybe it's not quite as true as what you believe. So I hope you'll take those things in humility. I hope you'll continue on with your silence journey. There's much fruit going to come out of it. I hope that you will begin to discern, go to higher self. I would encourage you to invoke that, and it's not like an affirmation. It is like an affirmation unless it's not like an affirmation. I think seeking and craving source and higher consciousness is a little bit more than simply going, oh well, God's inside of me. It is a true statement, but source doesn't just open the door to anyone. In fact, Yeshua taught us that. He said you must what? You must seek. You must have a desire. You must be to a place where you're not taking no for an answer no matter what. And so we're living in a perfect time. You get to practice that on a macro level. And so I hope you'll take that advantage. If the Bible's coming alive for you more than you've ever seen before, it's good. That means at least you listened and you're starting to listen again. And Source is going to bring us through this. There are, I believe, some changes coming. Some of them are going to be troublesome for some. Many people write me and ask questions about the financial system. Source has it under control. The pressure that's being exerted is being exerted to force people, to prompt people, to push people, to encourage kindly, if you would, people to awaken to a higher reality that they're not who they have been. And so, if that's you, then you above all people are exceedingly blessed tonight. And so, thank you for everybody, and thank you for the conversation, and I hope that you'll just allow yourself to be and allow the unfolding to come in with intention, coherence, and alignment. So maybe that's my new term, yeah, that's good, but you got to have these things with it. And so peace to each and every one of you. Love. I hope you guys see him. Look at the sun in the morning when it's shining so bright. Face it, look at it, and see yourself as it. Shalom and namaste.